going on, everybody? Welcome to the show.
It's Coffee House Madness time.
It's Coffee House Madness time.
Let's get energized.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody's here today with us. Guys, you guys are awesome. Appreciate
so much.
it. Everybody. Everybody, look at you. Sing hi over there. Say hi. Say hi. What's going on? Guys, we're here. We got Roxy. Got a full house.
Yep.
All the cousins and everybody over today.
Got everybody here.
Everybody's talking. Everybody's making a racket. All right, let's see if we can get started. Well, what do we got today? What are we talking about?
Today we're going to be talking about comic books.
Comic books?
Yes, and the origins of them, actually.
The origins of comic books? What do we got?
So, we're also going to be talking about Superman.
Is that right? Is that right? Is that right?
All right.
All right. Superman? What about Superman?
So Superman was actually invented by two teenagers actually who were just fresh out of high school, and they were trying to like do comic books, but since it wasn't as popular as it was now, they were like, hey, we need to do something that's really cool. So what happened was
they had to come up with a story, right?
Yes, a completely new story because there wasn't anything out then.
Right.
So what happened was one day, both of them, they were kind of conversing and talking. And
yeah, I think comic books came from the Depression time too.
Yes.
After
it was like the 1930s.
Yeah, after the first crash, people they didn't have a whole lot of money, so kids were going into school.
And making their own comics.
Drawing their own. They weren't even comics then. They were just stories.
It was just stories and images.
Right. But then I think the time he's talking about, that's when comics took a dip because they wanted new
stories,
new ideas, new heroes.
Yes.
Basically.
All right. New heroes. So what happened was they were conversing and they came up with the idea for a song called Superman. And then what they did was
the kids.
Yes.
These teenagers.
Yes. The two teenagers, and what they did was like a week later they were like, hey, we should give this to an actual comic book strip. So what they did was
they wanted to show it to a comic book company.
Yes. So what they did was they showed it to a lot of different companies, but they all said no.
Everybody said no.
Yes, except for one company that was called DC Comics.
You like this?
Yes.
I know. I hear you laughing.
Thank you.
That's hilarious. Go ahead.
So this DC Comics, they weren't popular then because, like I said, they were just starting out. So what happened was they would basically take any idea that they thought was cool.
Right.
So what happened was
and that's what it is with popularity. You have to basically go with what they can sell based off of a great idea, but then how can you market it without coming into financial difficulties?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So what happened was they sold it to them. And both brothers, both friends, they got $130 for the entire comic book. So that wasn't even a lot.
So the company that they sold it to, DC,
yes,
meaning
DC Comics.
Direct Comics, which stands for Direct Comics. They gave them, but at that time, that probably was a substantial price.
Well, yes, at the time, because these comics weren't a thing back then. They were, but it wasn't as popular.
Right. But also remember, they didn't know it was going to happen. Like, this was going to take off Superman-wise,
So big. So
yeah. So they basically created the idea as what? Isn't he considered an alien?
Yes, he was considered an alien.
So alien is considered an alien from a different planet, but he's kind of... forced to live with us.
Yes.
All right, keep going.
So, and in addition to that, they also got jobs at DC Comics as head staff writers.
Really?
Yes. But the sad thing was that by selling this to DC Comics, they were effectively giving away all rights to Superman.
Oh, jeepers, that's not good. Oh, no.
And to make matters even worse, when they actually tried to get a little share of the profits from DC Comics, they were fired immediately.
Talk about a baby crying. That's a big one. So they were like, hey, give us a little bit of money. But again, everybody's got to understand that to be in the business, especially comics, we have to, whoever's enjoying comics has to support. Because you're supporting artists, drawers, storytellers, to make it different over and over and over again. Just like when we support your channels, you guys support
our channel. Yeah. And after this, they were like,
"This is for you, Global Witch."
Yeah, thank you, Global Witch. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So later on, they were like, "We want some form of a restitution." So
yeah,
what they did was
because they were working at
At a clerk job, yeah.
I know one of the creators. What was his name?
Jerry Siegel.
Jerry Siegel.
Yeah, Jerry Siegel and Joseph Shuster.
Correct. I
Those
think
are the two
they
names.
got their recognition the first time ever in the movie Superman. If you see the credits,
And yes,
they got a big "How do you do" at the end
yes,
of that movie.
and what happened was actually they actually sued DC Comics because they said we want
So they did bring a lawsuit to them.
yes,
and,
because we want some form of restitution, so like we
Right.
want some money, and they actually
the guy
lost.
wasn't making a whole lot. He
No,
was
yeah, he
not.
was just
That's
a
why he
clerk.
was like, I have to find some restitution because I
I
think he
need
was
money.
going blind, and he was living in a small apartment.
Well, actually, yeah, that's what happened.
So he sued him, and then he lost, huh?
Yeah, he sued him and they
see?
lost. Yep. But later on, but this was like 30 years later.
Right.
What happened
After
was,
that movie launched, and they said, that's it. We have to recognize them. We have to bring them a part of the crew because we have to. They were the creators. So.
Yep. So what happened was Warner Communications, who actually owned DC Comics, they're like, since you don't really have any money and you were the original creators of Superman, we're going to give you a pension, and we're also going to give you a job at our studio.
Look at that. See that? See that? So they did end up taking care of them.
Yeah, so
And
they did.
The
end up
Superman
getting
love went
Yep.
for everybody. All right, what else we got?
So now, before this happened, we're going to be talking about the birth of comics, the origination of comics.
Go
So
ahead.
what
What do we
happened
got?
was there was this guy, his name was Harry Wildenberg, and
Alright.
he was the owner of Easter Printing Company.
Okay.
And at the time, there was no such thing as comics, so he wanted to make something that was fun and enjoyable for all the ages.
Okay.
So what he did was he created something called a tabloid-sized booklet.
Okay.
And this was small at the time. So, and what he did was he gave it to another company, which is called the Gulf Oil Company. And he was like, hey, maybe you can start commercializing this and making it into a big product. So, like, okay, sure, we'll do it. And it was actually a really big success. But it was a larger form of the comic book.
Wow. So
Yeah.
it was a large, like, book almost.
Yes.
Right. A tablet almost.
Almost,
Right.
almost the size of a book. So what
All
happened
right.
was he said maybe I can do it smaller and shrink it so there's instead of one strip I can do it in 2 strips and make it into a whole premium. And he did manage to make it where it's 2 small strips of comic books into one whole booklet.
See that? See that? So I think he's the one that came up with the idea to to start smashing it together.
Yep.
All right.
And later on, it was still doing extremely well. So he's like, maybe instead of selling it as a premium, I can start selling it now as like for just kids and just sell it like in book stands.
All right.
So what he did was he made 200,000 copies of one comic book called Funny Bunnies, and from Funny Bunnies sold like crazy, like almost 90% of all the comics sold.
Yeah, I think because of that particular story, that's when a lot of the attention grew, and they were like, okay, these are selling. People want this stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
And then that's where we get our comic books from.
Look at that. See that, guys? Never knew it, but now you do. I didn't know. There you go. What else do we got?
Oh, I have a joke for you. I have a joke.
Alright.
Okay. So, what do you give when an octopus is cold?
What do you get?
When
Give.
Give.
When an
Give to an
octopus
when it's cold.
is cold, y'all, what do we give him? I don't know.
A coat of arms. Get it?
Get it? A coat of arms. Because he's got a bunch of...
Eight arms.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
Good job. But I appreciate you guys always showing up, hanging out with us. Guys, thank you very much for showing up. We're going to have a good time. Maybe we'll do another one. Maybe we'll do it live. That would be cool. Tell us what you guys think. Again, if you need a joke or some topic of conversation, give us 10 minutes. We got you.